What's up, man? It's Bad Boy from Clika One, and I'm chilling right here with the homies at Chicago Street TV.
Can you let the audience know where you're from and what was it like growing up there?
I spent my first 5 years in Mexico. I don't really remember too much. Then my next 5 years after that was in Cali, and I just remember seeing a bunch of crazy ass shit that made my mom want to move the fuck out of there. So she brought us over here to Vegas, and it was pretty much the same shit. But yeah, man, it was in the '90s, so you know I got to experience a little bit of that. You know that whole gang shit in the '90s with the actual gang banging of. Not saying that motherfuckers ain't gang banging today, but it was just a little different in the '90s, you know.
So how would you say the neighborhood you grew up in Vegas, what is it like now?
Man, everything's changed. I don't even think one of the schools I went to for my 6th and 7th grade, it was Roy Martin. I don't even think it's a school anymore of how bad it was. They turned it into a magnet school, I think. But yeah, it was bad, man. It was it's a neighborhood out here called 28th Street, where you know you had it was actually crazy because you had so many different neighborhoods in one little spot. You had the Elm Woods and the 28s and the Little Angels and the White Fins right up the street, and it was bad, man, you know. But kind of stayed out the way until I left for my 7th grade to North Las Vegas, and it was just a complete opposite from where I was at. It was the rival gangs, and kind of gave me a hard time thinking I was from the neighborhood where I was coming from, but I wasn't, you know.
You
But
had
yeah,
mentioned that you was born in Mexico. You want to talk about what part of Mexico you're from and if you've recently been back there?
well, I'm from Guadalajara, Jalisco, and I think the last time I went was in 2004, 6, in 2006. But I would just go real quick for a couple weeks, or not even sometimes just a week, and come right back. But yeah, man, I couldn't go since 2007 or 8 because I had caught a case, and I actually couldn't leave the state. Ended up going to the joint, and they wouldn't give me my papers back. They were trying to deport me, so I wasn't able to leave. I ended up beating my case, though, and got my resident card back under some technical difficulties. Derivative citizen, for all of you that know a little bit about the motherfucking immigration laws. But yeah, man, I want to go back so bad. I had my grandma passed away when I was incarcerated, and I really missed that, man. So I got to go at least visit the gravesite one time, you know?
So being born in Mexico and having some time in Cali and Vegas, what type of music did you listen to growing up?
I listened to a lot of Spanish music, to be honest. Thinking about 89, I started, maybe about 86. It's when I first heard the Beastie Boys and who else? NWA, and I liked, what was it, Naughty by Nature. I really fucked with them, and then I was a huge Tupac fan. But yeah, a little bit of everything.
So listening to these rappers, how did you get started into the rap game?
I was selling crack cocaine when I was 14, and my big homeboy, he was a rapper. And one time after we were on the block, whatever, he's like, you know, go to the studio if you want to come with me, man. You know, let's roll. So I'm like, hell yeah. So I went with him, and I just remember that the atmosphere, man. I was intoxicated with just the music, the whole aspect of him writing something down and having a beat and rapping to it in front of me was so different than listening to a rapper and actually knowing the rapper. And I mean, I knew he rapped, but I had never been to the studio with him. But when he went, man, just one time that he took me, and I remember I'm just like, man, I would love to do that. And he's like, well, write something. And I think that same night I started writing my first rap, and that was when I was 14. And on my 15th birthday, matter of fact, I came to Chicago, and I recorded it at a place called Smooth Sound Productions, I believe. And that was the first time I got to record was in Chicago, and I did a song called Heaven or Hell, where I sampled Tupac's Me Against the World, where he says, will I last heaven or... No, it's the song called Outlaw, the last song on Me Against the World. And I sampled where he says, will I last heaven or hell, freedom or jail? Will I last heaven or hell, freedom or jail? Shit's hard, who can you tell? And if we fail, that was the hook. But yeah, that was the first time I actually got in the booth, was in 1995, September 28th. My birthday.
So you mentioned that you was slanging when you was 14. Do you want to talk about why it is that you decided to do that, and what was it like for a 14-year-old to go through that?
I had my wife of, you know, still till today, she was pregnant. So I was 14 and I had a baby on the way, and I couldn't get a job because I'm 14. And I just remember I lived in Crack Alley, so just the name should tell you right off the top that that's what motherfuckers did there. And yeah, man, I needed some money, so the homeboy was like, man, go up to that apartment right there and ask for the homie named Ra, and tell him that I sent you, and tell him to put you on, and he's gonna take care of you, just like that. So I walk up the stairs, and this the same dude that I'm telling you that got me into rapping, that was a rapper, one of my best friends. But I walked up there, and I just remember he was chilling in the living room, and I walked in, and he's just looking at me. I'm like, hey, man, the homeboy so-and-so told me to come holler at you to see if you could put me on. And he's like, you trying to work, huh? And I'm like, yeah. So he shot me a couple of them things, and he's just like, look, take these and bring me back this much and keep the rest. So, of course, he was taking 10 and letting me keep 10. And I went downstairs and just stood on the block and waited till motherfuckers came up to me, and I shot them and got the money and went upstairs and shot him the money, and then I doubled up on that and, you know, kept flipping it. But then I had a crazy ass trip because Moms was taking us to Cali for some reason, and the night right before we were leaving, I'm standing on the corner, and a motherfucking cop pulls into the apartments, and he stopped and he flashed his light. So I turned around. I always kept my rocks in my mouth, right? So I turned around and I swallowed them, because that's what you're supposed to do. And I think I had maybe 3 left or maybe 2 left, but I think he knew what I did, because he just jumped back in his car and he took off, cuz. So I'm just like, oh, shit. So I run to the homie's house, and I'm like, man, I just, you know, the cop, this and that and that, this. He's like, drink some water and some soap and try to, you know, throw him up. And I couldn't do it. So I'm flipping the fuck out. I know I rapped him right, but I'm still flipping the fuck out. So we're driving to fucking Cali, and we get to my uncle's house, and I remember I was sleeping on the floor, and I was dreaming that I was drinking. And in my dream, I threw up, and I woke up in real life, and I threw it all up. It was crazy. And after that, I'm just like, man, because you know, a motherfucker could have died for swallowing, you know, some rocks like that, man. But I just went back to Vegas and ended up getting a job at a fucking car wash and try to, you know, go straight. But that's when I had got into the whole rap shit. So I was doing the little rap shit, and then the rap just took off when I was about 16. So it worked out.
So you have mentioned that you recorded your first ever track out in Chicago. You want to let us know what it is that you was doing out in Chicago?
Yeah, it was. I didn't grow up with my father, and my father was from out there, so you know, he wanted to spend some time with me, and he flew me out there to Chicago to spend some time with. I had met him one time when I was 9 in Mexico, but it was only for a day, and then I guess he had moved from from Mexico to Chicago, but he had his family, you know, wife and kids and shit. But he flew me out there to spend some time with me, and you know, it's a crazy story. Is his wife his wife was cool as fuck. My brother and my sister cool as fuck, but his wife had asked me what I wanted for my birthday, so she's like, we can do this, we can do that, and she had brought up Six Flags, right? But I guess Six Flags is in Wisconsin, is that right?
It's like an hour away going north.
Right, Wyoming or Wisconsin?
No, it's border with Wisconsin.
With Wisconsin, yeah. So she's like, you know, she brought up Six Flags, so I'm like, let's go to Six Flags. So we drove to Six Flags, but somehow we got lost, and it took us almost 4 hours to get there. And when we get there, it was closed. Yeah, man, but yeah, that's what I was doing out there, just, you know, spending some time with Pops, you know.
So by 17, you started rapping more. You want to let us know how the group Clika One formed?
Yeah. Let me take it back to when I was 15. Because remember, I started rapping the first time I was in the booth was on my birthday, turning 15. But when I was 15, a couple months after that, I had heard about there was a talent show at a car wash. It's a gas station out here called the Stop and Shop, and in the West Side. So I went up there to you know, get into the talent show, and that's where I met Brown from Clika. He was in a rap group called Creep Mob with two negros, the homie Bonafide and Debug. And so I performed on stage, and after I got off stage, Brown, he performed, and then he came up to me and asked me if I was down to do a song with him. And I'm like, yeah. So, you know, I had really never met another Mexican rapper. The homeboy that I used to, you know, pitch with, he was a Cuban, but I'd never met another Mexican that was rapping out here in Vegas. So I thought it was a good idea. So we exchanged numbers, and maybe a month or a couple months after that, he called me, and you know, he's like, I got some studio time booked. He already had a manager, you know, a studio where he was recording at and everything. So he came and he picked me up, and he would always ask me, because he would call me, you know, before we actually met up, he would call me and, you know, trying to see if I could find another Mexican, because his idea was to put Clika One together. And but I hadn't met nobody or nothing until maybe a week before he came to pick me up. I met Romero at a kickback, and me and Romero battled at that actual kickback, and we exchanged numbers also. So when Brown came to pick me up the week after that, I told him, I'm like, hey, my boy, I met some dude named Romero. He's Mexican, and he raps too. And he's like, okay, well, we'll call him when we get to the studio. And then he's like, we're about to go pick up this homeboy that I used to go to school with, and his name is Randy, and he raps too. So I'm like, okay. So we drove, and it was probably like 3 blocks from my house. Literally not even maybe a mile and a half away from my house. We went to pick up this guy named Randy, and it was the homeboy Romero. So, which was a trip, because I just remember watching him come out the house, and I'm like, oh, that's that fool right there, you know? And I thought it was dope because when I battled Romero, I thought Romero was the dopest fucking shit I had ever heard. I was a big Frank V fan. I don't know if you know, from Proper Dose. So when I heard Romero, I thought Romero was like a more polished version of Frank V, and I just thought he was the dopest shit in the world. But I was 15, and I think he was 18 at the time, so he was a lot older than me. But I just knew, like, this fool's ready to go. So I thought it was dope, man. So we went to the studio and recorded our first song. And there was actually a fourth member to Clika One. Maybe a couple of months after we did our first song, another homeboy named Bronson joined the group. And he was dope as fuck too. He was older than me, of course. I was the youngest one. I was 15. I think Romero was 18 and Brown was 21. Bronson was maybe 18 or 19. But they were all dope. I was just like the little young motherfucker. But yeah, man, that's how we met.
Can you let us know how you guys got the name Clika One as a group?
Yep. So there's a rap group out here from Vegas named Murderous Click, and they were the shit. They were the there was two groups that blew up before us. There was a group named Doomsday that was signed to Black Market Records, where Brother Lynch was from, and then there was that group Murderous Click. So I think Brown's idea was structured, or he wanted to structure it after Murderous Click. So I think that's where the click came from, and it was actually La Clica. When we first started, the group was named La Clica, and then, you know, a couple years passed by and we wanted to make it a little more universal, so we changed it to Clika One.
So in 1998, Clika One released the first album. Can you let us know what record label you guys were part of, and how did you guys end up linking up with this record label?
Well, we actually owned our albums, and we were our own record label. So we have never signed to any record label. We just got distribution, which is very fucking rare. I don't know. Well, SPM, I know he owns his shit, but I can't really think of any other artist that owns their own shit like we do. We were fortunate enough, and I think we were intelligent enough. Brown from Clika One, he really had a good head on his shoulders, and he knew exactly what he was doing. And since he came from a record label where he was the artist, and he had this, I think they had distribution also, but he had a manager, and the manager, you know, gave him a lot of game. Shout out to the homie Stone Paxton. So I think he learned from him and just knew that we were going to be independent and that we would get our own distribution. And matter of fact, our first distribution deal, since you're asking me about what record label, I can't tell you a record label because it was ours, but let me tell you how we got the distribution. Was we had two offers, which one was Thump Records, Thump Universal, and then we had another offer from a distribution label in Arizona called ADI. And I just remember ADI offered us a lot more money, but to be honest, I think it was a bad move. I think we should have gone with Thump Universal, even though they were offering less money. They were, you know, they were offering the promotional press and distribution. So we were going to be on the entire Lowrider tour. We would have had the Lowrider magazine, you know, and the fellas wanted to go with ADI, and of course, you know, it's two beats one, so, you know, I got outvoted, and we ended up going with ADI, which was paying twice as much, actually more than twice as much as Thump was, but again, I think it would have been smarter to take the less money and get the promotion and get known, give them an album or two, you know, and then get free let him blow us up, and then we could do the independent shit again, because it was still independent. It was just distribution. So technically, we were just grabbing the promotional press and distribution, which was what everybody wants, but they just saw it different. They you know, and I still think, I'm sure they regret it, but not really. You know why? Because regardless of who we went with, the whole point was to get known, and thank God that we got known without the promotion, because it was word of mouth. The shit was so good that it fucking spread like wildfire, man. I can tell you that we were really blessed to I'm talking about like this. It just, as soon as we dropped that album, it just took off, man. We got fucked a lot because of the bootleg shit that was going on. But yeah, to answer your question, we were our own record label, and it was called Definite Records.
Can you let us know who came up with the idea for the album cover and the logo?
I don't remember. I think it was the actual designer. I think his name was Mario Lopez. We just took a bunch of pictures. I think it might have even been like 2 or 3 photo shoots. And then we just shot him a bunch of pictures. And then we drove out to, no, we just sent him the pictures, and then he returned. No, I'm tripping. One of the homeboys, I don't know if it was Brown's homeboy or Romero's homeboy, he had did the artwork. But I don't remember us coming up with the actual plan of it, or maybe I don't remember and I just didn't pay attention to it. But I just remember it, looking at it and just thinking it was dope, and we went with it. But we changed the way the album covers were made, because if you look at every other Chicano rap album, it was very, just the font alone. Everybody was using the Old English or the regular font, and our font was different. The album cover had the side clear part where it said Clika One. Everybody didn't, like, you really didn't see the extra that we added to it. Like, we really wanted to stand out. And if you would put our shit next to everybody else, it really stood out, you know? So it was yeah, but that. I really don't remember how the album cover came about, to be honest with you.
Can you let us know the story behind Mexican Mobster?
Fuck, man. I can't tell you if there was a story to it. I just remember hearing the beat, and we were like this when it came to writing and recording. We were, man, I always say, if we would have stuck together and we wouldn't have, I think the age difference the age factor made a big difference. But if we would have stuck together, man, we could have made a lot more dope-ass music. So I don't remember it having like something special to it. I don't really think any of our songs had any significance other than us just going into the studio, picking a beat and writing to it, you know?
For the track Day of the Dead, whose idea was it to
That-
add the Blood in, Blood Out?
That was the idea. I remember that one now, because that was a collaboration with the group Doomsday, which is one of the groups that I mentioned earlier, which was the first group that blew up out here in Vegas. The guy's name was, he went by Playboy 7, but his real name was Preston King, and he was the owner of their own record label as well. And he had the idea of using that part of the movie, and you know, which I thought was weird, because if you watch the movie, you know what happens after that, right? So I was surprised that he wanted to use that because to me it's like, well, it just seemed, but it was dope, you know? It sounded good, and if you didn't watch the movie, you kind of would just assume that it's a collaboration with the Negros and the Blacks. Because that's one thing about Vegas is we've always been like this with the Negros, you know? We've never, I mean, there was racial tension back in junior high school days, but it wasn't really nothing like that, you know? So, but that was Preston King's idea.
So, in the tracks Russ, I see that you guys got Kid Frost in it.
Yep.
Can you let us know the story behind that and how you guys linked up with Kid Frost?
Yep, that's got a cool little story. When we had did a show in Phoenix, and I remember we all walked up to Frost, but you know, we were like, hey man, you know, we're Clika One, you know, we introduced ourselves, and he had already known who we were, because I guess one of the girls that he was talking to at the time had us on her answering machine. And he's like, yeah, you know, my girl's got y'all on her answering machine. I already know who y'all are and shit. So that was pretty cool and shit. And he took our numbers down, and before he flew us out to Cali, he came to Vegas, and we did that song Stress. He flew in, and we had the beat ready for him, and you know, he got there, wrote his shit, and we wrote our shit right there on the spot. And that was Romero's idea, was to put the Boys in the Hood when we were kids. That's what's on there, no? Belonging? No, that's either they don't know, don't show, or don't care about what's going on in the hood. So yeah, so that's Ice Cube from Boys in the Hood. But that was Romero's idea to put that little skit in there. And then I believe me and Brown wrote that hook.
Do you want to talk about how the Latin rap or the Chicano rap game has changed over the years?
It's changed a lot, man. It has become a lot more urban. It has evolved, is what I call it, you know? I know the whole N-word is a big thing for people to bring up, but I personally don't think it's like, who cares? Just if you don't talk about it, it'll just become something normal to say, you know? And I think that's where we're gonna head. We're not gonna be worried about that word anymore. If whoever uses it, uses it. Whoever doesn't. But I think once you saw that word come into play, you knew that the homeboys were not copying the swag, because I don't think it's like we're trying to be that, or we want to be black. That's stupid. It's just who the fuck you're grown up around. It's you know, people say, oh, well, how come they don't say essay, or they don't say, well, they took our lowrider shit, you know? They're always wanting to be El Chapo. Like, if you don't think that's a fucking, you know, a salute to us, you could, every black rapper's El Chapo, El Chapo. That's us. Like, I don't get it. Like, if you guys don't see that we both share things that we like from each other, I mean, there's a reason why the Mexican is allowed to say the word nigga. The Negros don't let nobody use that word, but we can. Why? Because we're El Chapo. That's a cool thing for a Negro to hear a Mexican say the word or nigga. It's like, oh, that's cool, because they all want to be El Chapo. So it's our coolness or our swag, everything that we stand for, they're cool with that. They don't have a problem with a Mexican saying it, because they know that the Mexican is the shit. Just like we know that the Negro is the shit. we both are the shit. We run the prisons, the lowrider shit, a lot of the streets. We're known for being the best fucking boxers in the world. You know, there's a saying, he fights like a Mexican. There's a reason for that. So when you're talking about fist fighting and you fight like a Mexican, that's a fucking honor for, I mean, I've heard Dana White say that the Mexican is the most feared fucking athlete living. Like, you really look at the Mexican like he's something very dope. And I believe that the Negros see that. Just like we see that their swag is cool, or you know, the way they dressed, or whatever the fuck you want to say, man. We both copy from each other, and I would never, ever feel comfortable taking something from somebody that I didn't believe respected me the way they do. And they do. They respect us like a motherfucker. There's no way in hell you can tell me that a Negro doesn't look at us the same way we look at them. Because technically we came from the same place, and we were toughened up by the streets, and we stand up for each other, and we're two dope-ass motherfucking races. We're the two races that the motherfuckers don't want to see get together. For a reason. It's just like the Cubans, the Puerto Ricans, and the Guatemaltecos, and Hondureños, and all of them. We are the dopeness of the streets. We are the feared ones, you know? And so, yeah, man, but I think that's where rap has gone to, is it's evolved. And we're gonna keep evolving to the point to where we're not concerned about who's trying to be who. We're all gonna eventually become just one type of, you know, individual, just like the East Coast. If you look at the East Coast, you don't look at a Puerto Rican and a black or a Colombian and a black and think any different. They all dress the same. They all speak the same. They all, everything, there's no difference in them. That's exactly where we're gonna head to. And the faster we get there, the faster we can get over this N-word shit, because they done already been through that. I don't know if you know the history of Big Pun, when, you know, he made a song called It's That Nigga Shit. Go listen to the first album. He did that for a reason. And Fat Joe went through the whole people asking him about, well, do you think it's okay to say the word nigga? And it's like, don't nobody tell me shit in the neighborhood. Why the fuck do I got? And it's gonna be the same way with us. And it's nothing to be ashamed of, because like I said, they look up to us just like we look up to them. They fear us just like we fear them. It's just the same shit. And there's shit. But yeah, back to your question, is that's where we're heading to, and that's why we're being accepted so much more. That's why the Mexicans about to blow up. Look at Lefty Gunplay. Look at the Mexican OT. If you don't think the Mexican OT sounds exactly like motherfucking Slim, what's his name, Slim Thug, or he sounds just like the Negros from Texas. It's just, if I close my eyes, I couldn't tell you if it's Paul Wall or a motherfucker. I couldn't. They sound exactly the same, and don't nobody give a fuck, man. And the faster we stop worrying about, we want to be black. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, it's stupid.
So you had mentioned earlier about the group splitting up. Do you want to talk about why it is that happened, and can we ever see the group ever getting together to release an album in the future?
Oh, man. You know, I really, really, really wish there was a possibility, but God damn, when I tell you that one of us fucked up really fucking bad, and he doesn't want to fucking take responsibility for it, and it's embarrassing to think that he's not just admitting it, and it involves money, so it's hard to fucking just let it go, man, and he would have to pay back a lot of money, man. So just think about that. That should tell you everything. And it seems like he's not concerned about it. So I don't know how the fuck I really wanted it to happen, to be honest with you, because I thought the fans deserved it. I thought it was a great idea to make some good money since everything's digital and it's so easy to get it to the fans. I mean, imagine, matter of fact, we are thinking about doing a new Clika One album.
Were there already difficulties being a Chicano rap group coming out of Las Vegas?
Nah. You know, you would think so, but because it's hard as fuck. I still haven't seen any other Chicano rap group from Vegas do anything. Besides the homeboy Duende. Duende has and is having a lot of success in Mexico, which is a beautiful thing. And salute to him, man. That's my favorite Mexican Spanish rapper, you know. And he's from Vegas, and he's also from El Paso, so he represents both cities because he grew up in both cities. But besides us two, and I guess Duende didn't really do what he wanted to do here in the United States, but you know, his cup of tea was more in Spanish, so he knew where to go and where his demographics was at. So he's not stupid, and he's actually got really good numbers, which again is a beautiful thing, and salute to him. So right now, matter of fact, he's in Mexico working and touring in Mexico. So I love to see that. And but as far as being from Vegas, I don't know if it's I can't say, oh, it's a stigma because you're from Vegas, because we did it, and California accepted us like immediately. We did songs with everybody. Everybody loved Clika One. We were what the rap game is now. Everybody's more urban. It's different. That's what we were in the late 90s, you know? Our style, everything was just more evolved because Vegas is more evolved. If you look at how we grew up here, it's just, we dress different. We've always been more urban because there was no racial tension like it is in Southern California, you know? Over there, they had an actual culture, which I respect. But out here, there was no culture because it started in, I mean, yeah, 1905, but it really didn't start until the 60s, and everybody was from everywhere. So you have no roots out here. You might have like 2 generations now, but besides that, there was no roots out here. So you couldn't say, oh, this is what Vegas is like, because you had a little bit of swag from Arizona, a little bit of swag from you know, New Mexico, from Northern Cali. You had a little bit of everything here. And it was a melting pot of so many different swags that it just gave birth since the beginning to something different. We were never about the, you know, the brocha with the, I mean, even though we did dress like that at a certain period, but again, we evolved so fast that, but no, if you're from Vegas and, you know, you shouldn't have no reason whatsoever why you can't blow up.
Other than the future project that you have going on with Clika One in 2025, do you have any upcoming shows or personal projects for yourself coming up?
We do. Let me see. I have an EP coming out. I have a documentary of Clika One coming out. I have a podcast coming out with my wife and 2 friends of ours. And as far as shows, we're trying to line up some now, but it's hard to, not that it's hard to get shows, but to be honest with you, I'm not out there, you know, looking to perform at all. We just performed in Reno, and we performed here a couple months before that, and might be doing the Chicano music festival again. but this time as a special guest for one of the artists, which is cool. But we are trying to set up a 10-city tour for either this winter, which hopefully in the next month or so, or for sure for the springtime, but just 10 cities. And we're gonna try to be doing that every year. That is our plan, is to do the 10-city tour the way Magic and Little Rob and Bash do it, you know? I know they do a lot more shows than that, but with us, it'll be cool just to do the 10, the biggest cities that, you know, our demographic is at, just to stay, you know, relevant. And but once that EP drops and the podcast drops, man, I could tell you it's gonna be gas pedal, no brakes, you know? So who knows what the future brings, but it's definitely gonna hear a lot more about Clika One here pretty soon.
Can you let us know where the audience and the fans can follow you on all your social media platforms?
Yeah, I got Clika One. I think it's Bad Boy Clika One at Instagram. I'm not sure, but I think that's what it is. I'm not big on it, but I need to be, and I'm going to be because of everything that I got coming. But I'm sure you can tag it on the podcast. But yeah, I think it's the same thing as far as the YouTube, you know. But if you get to one, I'm gonna have them all linked, so you'll be able to go to everything, you know.